here now. The ANC, DA and EFF have all pledged to improve basic municipal services. But climate change has largely been ignored despite rising extreme weather globally. We speak now about how climate change affects local government. We're joined by human rights and environmental activist, Mr. Kumi Naidoo. Mr. Naidoo, always a pleasure chatting to you. And thank you very much for joining us this evening. We look at the promises that were made during campaigning by the various political parties, the EFF, land now, jobs now, the ANC, we promised to change and we promised to do better. The Democratic Alliance talking about improving service delivery, clean governance, etc. Promises abound from political parties. What was your observation where climate change was concerned? Is there a correlation between climate change and governance?
Absolutely. I mean, it would appear that our major political parties don't recognize a basic fact that we are living in the most consequential decade for humanity's history. And what the science is telling us, we need to make massive, big changes to our economy, our energy system, our food system, and so on, if we are to avert catastrophic climate change. And what if we understand local government in its entirety for South Africa and consciously think about rural local government, then we need to know that already we are seeing massive impacts in terms of the rain not coming when it should, coming when it shouldn't. We never used to have cyclones before. When we saw we had a cyclone in our region that almost wiped out the city of Beira. So it is highly disappointing that none of the manifestos of any of the local governments candidates really took on the issue of climate change. And it's also a sad reflection of Parliament itself when they have been called upon by civil society to discuss and adopt the Climate Justice Charter, which was developed almost a year ago, that such a conversation has not happened in Parliament, and that in fact we are really behind in terms of meeting our commitments in terms of climate.
More than anyone, you understand very well the lay of the land in South Africa. When we take a look at massive informal settlements, we also take a look at underserviced traditional South African townships, right? And it's in these particular areas that you find a number of problems. So somebody in their backyard, there is a company that sells cement. We've got unused mines that are still plaguing the people of Diepkloof, for instance. So dusty season comes and you just run your finger on the table and that's what it is. From the work that you did while you were in the country and continue to still do, is there a concerted effort to address this issue?
I believe that national government and provincial government largely has failed. National government and provincial governments are doing excellently, but the problem here is when you look at the exact practice, right, we are really in denial about also the opportunities if we move quickly. I had occasion when I was Secretary General of Amnesty to have a breakfast with the President, or be at a breakfast table with the President, and I said to him then in 2019 January, I said, the longer we drag our feet and not get ahead of the green technology curve now, we will find ourselves in the same position that we've always did, which is that we'll be reliant on patented knowledge and so on coming from outside. Our continent is blessed with solar, wind, wave, and so on. And we need to get ahead of the curve so that we can actually be able to transform communities. So like if you take the question of electrification for rural people as well as electrification in cities, right? We no longer can not have the vision of turning the roof of every home, every school, every workplace, every place of worship into two things: a electricity generator as well as an income generator. In many countries around the world, what you have is people who generate electricity, use some, and feed the excess into the grid. If we set up that system on scale in South Africa, Eskom would not be needing to run those stupid ads which ask people to save money, save electricity when it's too late, because you would have an inbuilt incentive if people can generate, and governments has the capability to support even poor communities, right, through subsidies. That would be much better spent than all the corruption that we have seen in the energy space over the last 15, 20 years.
I genuinely wish we had more time to explore the issue of indigenous knowledge systems on the continent. When we speak climate change, we cannot divorce those two issues. We've always been ahead of the curve in terms of understanding nature. Thank you very much for your time. Human rights and environmental activist Kumi Naidoo, always a pleasure.